The Haunting at Renfrew Woollen Mills. The year was 1946, and Renfrew was a town of bustling industry, its people shaped by years of hard work and perseverance. At the heart of this activity was the Renfrew Woollen Mills, one of the largest employers in the region. The factory's massive brick structure dominated the landscape, its tall smokestacks belching plumes of gray into the sky as the looms inside roared with life. Day after day, the mills churned out endless rolls of fabric, some destined for high-end suits and others still for military uniforms. It was a place that provided for the community, but it was also a place of tragedy. Earlier that same year, a terrible accident had shattered the mill's steady rhythm. William, a 38-year-old machinist and a father of two, had been killed in a horrific malfunction. On that fateful day, the factory was filled with the usual sounds of grinding gears and clattering machinery when a sharp, metallic shriek sliced through the air. A loom had malfunctioned, pulling William into its unforgiving gears before anyone could react. His body was mangled in the machinery, and he died instantly, leaving behind a devastated wife and two children. His sudden death cast a shadow over the factory, and in the months that followed, a sense of unease crept through its walls. The workers whispered in hushed tones about strange occurrences in the aftermath of William's death. At first it was small things, a shift in the air, the sudden, unexplainable chill in the factory, despite the roaring heat from the boilers. But it wasn't long before those whispers grew into something more tangible. Some said they could feel William's presence lingering near the loom where he had died, like a cold breath on the back of their necks. Martha, a seasoned employee with over 20 years of service, was the first to speak openly of what she had experienced. One evening, as the night shift dragged on, she found herself alone in the factory's dimly lit halls. The rhythmic thumping of the looms had slowed to a low hum, and most of the other workers had already gone home. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of machinery whirring to life cut through the silence. It was the very loom where William had met his end. Martha rushed to the scene, her heart pounding in her chest, but as she reached the machine, she found it still, silent, as if it had never moved. The room was empty, the air thick with an eerie quiet. From that night forward, Martha avoided the mill after hours. She wasn't the only one. As word spread of her experience, more workers began reporting their own unsettling encounters. Tom, a younger worker who had only been at the mill for a few months, swore he had seen a figure, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in the same navy blue overalls that William had worn on the day of his death, moving slowly between the rows of machines late one evening. Tom had called out, but the figure had simply vanished, dissolving into the shadows like a wisp of smoke. Others, too, claimed to see the ghostly figure, always near William's loom, always disappearing before they could get a closer look. The strange occurrences reached a peak one cold October evening. Harold, the factory's stern and practical owner, was working late in his office, meticulously reviewing the factory's accounts by the dim glow of a desk lamp. The temperature inside the room suddenly plummeted, and his breath appeared as frosty clouds before him. A deep silence fell over the building, broken only by the distant, echoing sound of footsteps slowly approaching his door. Harold, a man not easily frightened, initially dismissed the noises as one of the few remaining workers finishing up for the night. But the footsteps stopped, and the air grew thick with a suffocating cold. Frowning, he rose from his chair and strode into the hallway, determined to confront whoever was disturbing his work. As he reached the corridor, he froze in his tracks. There, bathed in the pale, flickering light of the factory's dim lights, stood a figure near the loom, the unmistakable form of William. The ghostly image was unnervingly clear. His features were pale and drawn, his eyes fixed on the machine that had taken his life. Harold's heart pounded as he called out to the apparition, but his voice was swallowed by the thick, icy air. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it slowly turned, its gaze never leaving the loom before it disappeared into the shadows as silently as it had appeared. As the figure faded, Harold heard the faint sound of the loom beginning to whir. as if haunted by its tragic history. From that night forward, Harold made sure he was never alone in the factory after dark. The haunting continued for years, with each new generation of workers whispering the same eerie tales. Some believed that William's spirit remained tied to the mill, forever trying to finish the work that death had so abruptly interrupted. Others thought he was watching over the factory, making sure that no one else fell victim to the unforgiving machines. His presence was felt, not seen most days. A gust of cold wind where there should be none, the soft creak of a floorboard in an empty room, or the ghostly hum of a loom at rest. Even as the years passed and the factory saw technological advances, William's spirit seemed to remain a part of the Renfrew woolen mills. Even until the day the factory was closed down for good. William's ghost was woven into the very fabric of the place, as much a part of the mill as the looms themselves, ensuring that the past was never truly forgotten. This ghost tale was produced by Rick J.M. Gauthier, the up-and-coming Canadian author of the Little Ricky the Boy, Little Ricky the Lad, and Little Ricky the Young Man collections of short stories. This ghost story is based upon known facts about hauntings in and around Renfrew. Little Ricky short stories can be purchased from Amazon and Kobo. Amazon has paperbacks and ebooks. Kobo has audiobooks. If you buy a short story, all proceeds are donated to a food bank. Books are not expensive. Some are as low as $6. Consider helping Rick get established as an author by supporting him with a purchase and a review. Consider helping Rick to feed the hungry.